And we're live. Hi, and welcome to Fandom Spotting. This is Laurel. I'm not sure if we have a formal moderator today.
Nope.
Nope.
But this is our episode 33. This is episode 33, and our topic is disability and fandom, or disability in fandom. And I will let my co-presenters, talkers, introduce themselves.
Alright, hi, I'm Evi. I'm Evi was here on Twitter and Tumblr and Recrudescence on LJ and Dreamland. Hi.
Hi guys, I'm Zan, and I'm Zanzando or some variation thereof pretty much everywhere, so I'm easy to find.
Alright, and as per our banner for this episode, we were going to start off talking about the portrayal of disability in comics first.
Okay. So our Tumblr banner, if y'all saw, is Barbara Gordon having fun playing some wheelchair basketball with another comics character who Zan knows the name of, and I totally forgot right before this panel, which makes me a jerk.
Wendy.
Wendy, right.
One of the twins, I think, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Well, she got retconned out in New 52, which is actually upsetting because she joined the Teen Titans, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So DC has pretty much destroyed its number of visibly disabled characters, and this was a big controversy when the New 52 launched because they pulled Barbara Gordon out of the chair. And as y'all might know, comics continuity changes a lot, and people don't stay dead, but Barbara basically being in a wheelchair and paralyzed from, I think, the waist down was one of those things that just had not been altered. She was shot by the Joker in a one-off called The Killing Joke that ended up being integrated into main DC continuity canon and basically accepted ever since. And it was actually a really, like, as often as disability is used as a struggle or a story for a character to really overcome, it actually brought a lot of depth to a character that hadn't really had a lot of stories focused on herself and how she dealt with it, and basically reinvented herself as a superhero oracle where she became the information hub for the rest of the Bat family and basically grew into her own as a character, not necessarily just because she became disabled, but it really added, I guess, like a richness and diversity of character. Like, here's a story we haven't actually seen before in comics. So I really struggled with the idea of her coming out of the chair for the New 52 reboot, and they gave it her story, and it's still being written by Gail Simone, who
Thank God.
Yeah, and she's been really open with fans about their reactions, and has actually tried to integrate sort of this like rehabilitation period that Babs is going through, like how did she, I don't think they've quite explained how she regained the ability to walk, but Babs is still like working hard to rehab and that kind of stuff. Like, it's not a really quick overnight fix, but at the same time she's still punching the shit out of dudes after being in a wheelchair for like 2 years. And I guess I was sort of two minds also, because Oracle is also a really great fighter, she has learned to utilize her wheelchair and her upper body strength to be a pretty formidable martial artist,
Yeah.
Which I like and also don't like, I guess. I guess in the superhero comic genre, it's sort of necessary that you become a physical fighter. You know, I don't know. I have a little mixed feelings about it. I love Oracle, though.
Yeah, I do too, even though it's DC Comics, which, sorry.
Not fair.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was, in the first place, I was surprised when she, at first, stayed in the wheelchair. And now I'm really, really not surprised that DC chose to, or whoever chose to go this route. But I'm kind of, yeah, okay, it's cool that that there's a protracted rehabilitation storyline. But do we always have to cure the disability? Is that really necessary?
I think
No,
also... I think also, like, does this really make the character more interesting? Like, just from a purely narrative perspective, what are we getting out of Barbara Gordon out of the chair that we weren't getting from Barbara Gordon in the chair? Like, does that make sense? I don't feel like I'm reading better stories now. I
Well,
feel like,
disability often gets posits as some sort of adversity that you have to overcome, so it's
mhm,
that's a pretty popular storyline.
right. I feel like Babs was great because
She
by
is.
by overcoming, she just sort of like coped, which is basically what happens if
Yeah.
you go from like able-bodied to not. It's less like I'm going to overcome this and walk again, and more like how do I readjust my life around this? Oftentimes, I don't want to generalize. It was a lot like that for me.
Yeah. The
Hmm.
coping part is, well, for me, it's the interesting part. It's not, I don't know how to put this, but just living with something that's hard, like a disability.
Right.
For me, that's interesting, but I do also have disabilities, and I don't know how it's for someone I don't know how that is even true for anybody, but who really has no disabilities.
Hmm.
So it's hard for me to get that perspective, but I just want the normal part, I guess.
Right. And Babs got a lot of like she still had a romantic relationship with Dick, which is great. I love
Yeah.
that. Um, and I mean, I think there's a lot of cut to black, but they were shown being really physically intimate. And even though there's a little cheesecake shot of her showering, there was still like, hey, Barbara Gordon does normal shit, takes a shower, has a boyfriend, runs a superhero data hub in the basement.
I'm basically just nodding along here. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which was like it's interesting. Here are stories we don't get to hear in the context of a superhero book, which is awesome. And I feel like DC has really like not only taken that narrative away from people who could relate to it, but also really diminished the breadth of the characters that they're telling me about. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Um, if we want to talk about, so Barbara Gordon is actually a pretty cool example of how like she didn't suddenly gain like these extraordinary superpowers after losing her ability to walk, but we wanted to talk about like super disability, like Matt Murdock. I'm just gonna, you guys can cut me off for comic stuff. Who was
I was
always,
going to
yeah,
cry, Daredevil.
Daredevil, which always made me pause. I was saying earlier, like Daredevil doesn't particularly have any augmented powers aside from like all of his senses are super intense because he's blind. But I never understood why there weren't like more blind superheroes in the Marvel universe if you don't need any like metahuman abilities to be like an awesome ninja while also being blind. I mean, and some of the stuff he does is stuff that other blind people have developed, like echolocation, which I think is really badass.
It's
Just
super badass.
yeah, like using your cane or hearing to basically gauge um, like the spaces around you, which is cool. And I know there's like one dude who does like parkour stuff with it. Because I was looking this up when Deucalion showed up in Teen Wolf as blind, and people were like, "Oh, I bet he's just fronting with that cane," but I really hope he's not. I hope he uses it because
Well,
that's still
yeah,
really cool.
but kind of going along with that,
Hmm.
it's we were saying earlier, it's kind of almost expected that if you have a character who has a disability of some kind, then you're wondering what else there is going on. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, when Deucalion showed up as part of the Alpha Pack in Teen Wolf and he happened to be blind, I just I was kind of wondering, okay, so what else is going on because he's blind? Because you can't just have a character who happens to be blind and as awesome as they are. There's always something that makes them super with it, you know? Like if
you don't understand how
if they
deep
don't have
down in my heart I just want them to play it straight. I just want
No,
them
I
to
would
play it
love
straight.
that. Like I would love it if he'd been blind since
Yeah.
birth and he just so happens to be an amazing werewolf who can do all this cool stuff. But just because that trope of the blind person in particular having some kind of gift that somehow negates their blindness, that's such a huge
Isn't there
thing
like
at
a
this point. It's
whole...
so predictable at this point, and it's just like, really, you can't have someone who happens to be visually impaired and rocks it out without needing any kind of preternatural ability or
right,
mastery of anything badass.
this compensatory ability that you get because, like, obviously you're missing something if you have a disability, which is not necessarily, like, and again, it varies, but not necessarily something that people with that disability feel.
Right, and
Like,
I
you
do
look
think,
at the deaf community,
oh gosh,
right?
yeah, but I do think it's interesting that Deucalion's blindness is obviously not something that can get healed when Teen Wolf and a lot of werewolf-centric media has shown lycanthropy to be kind of a panacea that just cures whatever pre-existing conditions you have.
Which is interesting
And
because it also stands in as a metaphor for
Yes,
illness or disability.
Right, and we were talking earlier about a couple examples of this. One was how it's treated on Teen Wolf. One of the main characters has asthma, becomes a werewolf, and it's cured. Another one voluntarily becomes a werewolf, is an epileptic, and she wants to be free of what she sees as something that's ostracizing her from her peers. So
and what I think the show did a good job of actually... I know Erica is not the most developed character on Teen Wolf, but I think for her, they did a good job of showing a real isolation in a short period of time that, like, it was believable to me, not just because having epilepsy could be life-threatening or, like, kind of, it'd be pretty shitty to have seizures all the time, you know? But they also did a good job of setting up, like, this idea of the social costs, which I liked.
And I thought that was more interesting than the route they wound up taking, which was her spoiler. Lycanthropy does not actually. I'm just saying, but it does not actually cure everything. She continues to have a seizure once she becomes a werewolf, and it's not actually this cure-all. She does get perfect hair and become sexually aggressive, but the one thing that she really focused on wanting to, as she saw it, be free of is not something that happens to her.
I think that's actually that's interesting, and it's sort of like I would love, and this probably will never happen because of spoilers, but like that was such an interesting storyline to me, like what happens when your cure is not a cure, and how they would explore that, because like this was clear, and
no, you muted for a second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of potential there that's maybe
Untapped.
will never be. Maybe will never be explored, and I would love to see some fan works dealing with it. I know I've started a lot, but
this is why I like Deucalion so much, is because he's still a werewolf and he still has blindness, but he's not trying to. It's not something that we have seen is something that he is trying to overcome.
Right.
And I'm really hoping he doesn't turn out to have like supervision and mastery of 24 languages and 34 martial arts forms or anything to like compensate.
Right, and he wasn't
second sight.
Oh yeah.
By way of magic.
I bet
that is one of my pet peeve tropes. I'm sorry, it's the blind psychics. I mean,
well, take that up with the Greeks, Evi.
I'm sorry. I will. I'm sorry, Tiresias. You're my homeboy. You are. I guess you're a bastion for that kind
precedent.
Of thing. But then you got like Loads on Carnival and Pam on Supernatural and oh my goodness, who else?
Yeah, Merlin in the Young Merlin books.
I can't see a blind character without wondering, okay, what's their ability? I read a
like
lot of
Spiegel has a fake eye in Cowboy Bebop that lets him see the future.
David Eddings, there's like a whole nation of seers who are all blind in the David Eddings books, which I ate the hell out of when I was 14.
There's like one whole YA series that has like a blind protagonist, but she has magic.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of it. But the author actually was like, yo, sorry about this.
Really? That sounds
because people were like, yo, this is a really shitty representation of disability. And
That's awesome that they spoke up about it, though, because I would be getting sick of that, too.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's really hard to just get a character that's, like, disabled and, like, exists.
Yeah. I mean, or even if they're not superpowered, they're somehow defined by it. I used to be really...
Right.
House fandom, in its heyday, was a shining example of this. And even then, when reality was becoming too constricted, they would hand-wave it as need be and have their protagonist...
Oh, you mean like the show?
Yeah. And no, like an actual house. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would have their main character merrily jogging along despite the gaping hole and
oh my god,
massive mushy tissue in his thigh. So,
everything about House, man. His addiction storyline made me really upset.
No, because it just the portrayal of eventually everything being psychosomatic, I think, was incredibly problematic, and also because they've been
also
tugging,
because it was physical.
Yes, exactly, and because they've been tugging him in like 10 different directions at a time, saying, "Oh, well, his addiction stems from depression, stemming from loss of muscle tissue in his leg 10 years ago,"
or maybe it's
turning
like,
around and saying it's psychosomatic and.
Right, I was always so confused when that storyline came up because I was like, yo, isn't he just taking painkillers every day because he's in a lot of pain? Is that really what we would quantify as addiction? Because then, you know, I'm addicted to my medication because I feel like shit when I don't take it. Like, yes, am I medication seeking? I'm definitely drug seeking because I would like to not hurt all the time.
Exactly, and I feel like when you have something like that being broadcast, it gives a lot of false impressions to the people who are consuming that media.
House is definitely like a huge representation. Like, he's definitely become like I don't want to say archetype. What am I trying to say? Like a heuristic in people's mind for people with chronic pain, which I think is really problematic. Like when I started using a cane.
He's like the go-to comparison.
God, yeah. Like literally everyone in my life is like, oh, you should get a House cane.
Like, no, it's like Goofus and Gallant. It's not how it works.
Also, like, Hugh Laurie definitely messed up his back because House did not use a cane properly on that show.
That was actually a plot point at one point, him not using it correctly. They did some lampshade hanging.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, y'all couldn't have, like, got a consultant mabes, talked to a dude on the street using a cane. Read the instructions that came when you bought a cane.
I cannot remember if it was a conscious choice. I think it was meant to show how iconoclastic and not giving a fuck he is. But Hugh Laurie was like, yeah, I need to do yoga because my back is all jacked up now.
I actually, like that on Switched at Birth, which has several characters who have hearing disabilities. And they actually have lots of consultants on the show. For example, to make sure that all the people who sign on the show sign in the same dialect, because they all learned different dialects of ASL, and I thought that was so awesome.
I think Switched at Birth is definitely a show that doesn't get enough props because they also have deaf or hard of hearing actors. I don't think the main girl who is deaf.
She does.
Is she deaf?
Yeah, it's not. It's intermittent. She has
cool.
It's something about her a sense of balance, and then she also she can't hear in certain periods of time. So she definitely learned signing before the show.
Yeah,
and she knows what it's like. Yeah.
And it's pretty popular. It's been chugging along. I keep meaning to check it out because at first it seemed really hokey, and then people whose opinions I respect were like, they do a really great job of this, and I was like, hey, I never hear that.
That's always something interesting too when you have actors with disabilities actually playing characters with disabilities. The guy who plays Walter White's son on Breaking Bad apparently actually does have cerebral palsy.
Ooh, should we talk about Crypt Drag then?
Yes, I was. Okay? I want to talk about Glee.
Oh yeah, I
guess we were never gonna get away from that.
No, it's like it's the wheelchair dance in the room. Glee. It's just about this. Will Schuester is so well intentioned, and
That's a fucking show that could use some really hardcore consultants.
Yes, it could. There's been a lot of
they just stand
outcry
in the room,
over the things
cross
that they
their
get
arms.
wrong, but
I just want to
But
be a dancer, but I could never be that in a wheelchair because I never would think to Google wheelchair
wheelchair
dancing.
dancer. And then there's that one episode where they have Will Schuester makes everybody spend like a week in a wheelchair so they know what it's like.
Oh
And
man,
there was a
somebody
lot.
did that at my college, but his story was, hey, this college is really inaccessible, which
Well,
was
see, that makes sense, and that's making a wider point.
right.
Yeah.
When I first started reading the story, I was like, wait, is this like that Glee episode where the moral is, hey, it's really hard to be disabled.
Like, yeah, this sucks. So be nice to people
Yeah,
in wheelchairs.
like
Yeah,
pity this dude, which is like a really shitty narrative.
it is, and it's not the only time they've done it. There's well, in addition, there's outcry over Kevin McHale being an able-bodied actor playing Artie, who is
Right.
in a wheelchair, and there's also that episode where the School for the Deaf comes and does their number, which is primarily signed.
Oh, and then
One
everyone
guy-
starts singing
And
with them.
yeah, and then the Glee
That
cast
was
stands
so
up and starts
rude.
singing along, and
So rude.
they basically kind of hijacked their musical number, and it's supposed to be like this kumbaya moment where they're all like singing and signing along in solidarity, and really
Yeah.
it's just kind of
Ugh.
facepalmy and not
Yeah.
a good look.
Step off. This is rude, and you would never do it.
Right. There's they also have a character on there who is portrayed as she hasn't canonically been, it's not canonically confirmed whether or not she has any sort of mental issue, but
Brittany?
Brittany's simultaneously portrayed as being very infantilized and sexualized at the same time.
Yeah, she's really sexualized, but she's definitely given like character traits that really could belong to someone with intellectual disabilities, and that's cool
Yeah.
if they would like own it.
But even if they do own it, it's still incredibly, it's just beyond the point of being a joke. There's one point where she talks about how she couldn't graduate because she has a flat 0 GPA.
Right. Like at that point, I'm like, wow, this high school really needs to step its game up.
Yeah, or she doesn't brush her teeth because
disability
she doesn't brush her
services.
teeth. She just uses soda because she thought Dr. Pepper was a doctor. So
Yeah,
that's how
it's
she
like
brushes her teeth.
somebody needs to help this girl.
I mean, it's it's not a gimmick at this point. It's just kind of a really, really.
I do like that the fandom has picked that up though, and
They
I've read some
have.
stuff where like she is actually written as someone who has intellectual disabilities, and like that's okay, like
Right.
part of her character, and it works a lot better than the canon of the show.
Oh yeah, a lot of the fan work is a
dumb
lot more
jokes.
nuanced and sensitive than the canon.
And it's
which is,
actually really strange to me because they have someone with Down syndrome.
They
plays
do, and
a
they
girl
are
with Down
Two
syndrome.
even.
Two, yes.
and
Yeah.
they're butchering everything. Oh gosh, there was
Oh,
one,
yeah, they
there
do.
was recently an episode about a school shooting that.
So I rage quit Glee a while
Okay,
ago.
no, I
so-
quit, but I still read this. I still read updates sometimes, and
That's
I have
fair.
friends into it.
Yeah.
So there was an episode where there was a school shooting, and apparently the cheerleader with Down syndrome was scared of being out in the real world. She brought a gun to school, feeling like she needed to protect herself. I believe.
Wait, what? Oh my
And it-
god,
and it
that was the plot?
And it accidentally went off, and
Oh my god. Oh my god, I knew they did a school shooting episode, but I didn't know that was the, oh my
No,
god,
I read the
everything is
spoil-
awful.
I read the spoilers and I thought it was a joke.
Oh God.
I need like
So it's
I
like,
need a
really, you
minute.
couldn't have. I mean, okay, at least have Finn Hudson do it. He literally shot himself in the foot. Just. Yeah.
Why would could they not think of like a real character driven narrative? Oh, probably not. Let's be
No,
real.
because that's her defining characteristic.
That's actually kind of a theme in Ryan Murphy's work. There was another character with Down syndrome on the first season of American Horror Story, but she was actually one of the better characters on that show. She was like a phenomenal actress. So her scenes were great when she was Jessica Lange's daughter. So them playing off each other was like
Oh,
it
she
wasn't
was-
like
She was her
delightful.
daughter in real life? Or?
No,
Oh,
she's her daughter on the show. And they actually, they touched a lot of stuff, I think. Obviously, they were going for, like, the taboo, but it was actually pretty interesting. But then, of course, they, spoiler, killed her off, and it was really upsetting to me, because she was, one of my favorite characters. And everyone else was kind of a dick, so...
It's just. But still, there are not a whole lot of openings for people who have disabilities to break
part
into
of the
acting
problem.
industry.
It's always.
Yeah.
Sorry, you first.
Sorry. Oh, just one more thing, but I was really surprised when I saw True Grit to learn that at the end they actually did have a woman with one arm play the role of a woman with one arm.
Oh, great! That's
Ooh.
awesome.
Which is not a very big part, but still,
Yeah.
get that paper.
Like, yeah, I mean, that means somebody had to actually think about putting out a cast,
Mm-hmm.
like a casting call that was like actresses with one arm, versus just, like, hey, white people.
And also, it's just a good movie about a girl taking control of things and being awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Part of the problem is that it's almost, visible disabilities and
Mhm.
sometimes invisible ones too, but visible especially. It's always part of a narrative.
Right.
Unless it's on a TV series and like the creator loses attention, but usually it's the narrative.
Right.
It's like, look at this person who ...
There's some kind of arc related to that disability,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Or like Sue Sylvester and her sister is defined by Sue Sylvester and not herself. And like Sue's
Well, she's
emotional
there
arc.
for us to learn about things.
Yeah.
and then she spoiler tragically dies, and everyone learns a lesson.
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
great.
The use of disability as props for like an able-bodied character growth
Mm-hmm.
is just like, why?
No, it's like I don't know. I want to say it's like poverty porn, only without poverty, instead of I don't know what you would call it, ability porn.
Right, and it's so difficult because this is the only representation that a lot of disabilities get. Where I only know the American statistics, but it's like 1 out of 5 Americans has some sort of disability. But like, I think it's like less than 1% or like like it's a really low number of characters that are portrayed on mainstream media as having disability. So I'm gonna do a shout out to My Gimpy Life, which is a web series,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty sweet, about a wheelchair user, Teal Scherer, and her life. It's a comedy series of as she's an actress trying to make it in Hollywood, but also a wheelchair user. So I think it's cool, but it sucks that like we have to create like our own media. Like it's been so
Yeah.
so
It's I don't know
separated.
I don't know if this is just me, but I get like disability politics and ableism is
Mhm.
still one of the things that few people care about and
Right.
take notice of. Like everybody notices when you call something gay,
Right.
when you don't like it or think
Which
it's
is good.
shitty. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. It's awesome. But people just substitute, for example, lame for
Mhm.
the same thing. Oh, that's lame. And I'm like, no, it's not, you fucking asshole. Or herp derp. I'm sorry, I keep harping on about language, but
No, I think this is our first step into it,
Well,
actually.
yeah, and I also
Herp
think that
derp does bother me, and I know a lot of people pretend like it's not.
I think the etymology, people are kind of varying minds about the etymology, but I think what it all boils down to, if someone says that it makes them uncomfortable, then how hard is it to just not use it?
Well,
Yeah.
they already dropped the R word, so what else can they use? Which is such a problem.
I'm a big fan of ridic.
Ridic. That's good.
Or I like preposterous. All my students know preposterous now.
Oh, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or prepos, because they're third graders, so start
Well,
small.
you gotta get the abreves in there.
Yes, I do. We also say a lot of not hatin', just statin'. But anyway, I'm sorry. It actually is my job to educate, so we speak over all of you. Go ahead.
No, I totally lost the plot.
Language, ableist language, and
Oh yeah, like it's
it's
really entrenched. I think we've sort of moved in the right direction a lot. Like there've been a lot more loud and publicized conversations about whitewashing roles in films. Like I actually feel like maybe there hasn't been less whitewashing, but every time it happens, like that gets examined.
yeah, people aren't silent about it, and I think it's making it
So
easier. It's, other people are taking notice. It's not something they wouldn't normally pick out before.
So it's really frustrating when I see those same arguments, like what was it, Abigail Breslin? She was cast to play Helen Keller
Really?
in The Miracle Worker. I'm going to double check this. And people were really trying to kind of get a conversation going about sort of.
Laurel, you're mute.
Hello?
Trying to get a conversation going about
like, is this problematic? Like, we should talk about this. Like, because one, basically, it makes it impossible for people with disabilities to get jobs when able-bodied actors are getting Oscars for playing disabled. And
Claire Danes too.
And like there were so many arguments like, oh, well, how could you even have like a blind girl play this role? Like this idea that because they've never seen a disabled actor or actor with disabilities.
Well, it's a catch-22 because there are so few opportunities. Of course you haven't seen them because nobody is offering that kind of work. So.
Right, so there's this like intense belief that they would not be capable of doing that work, which is really bothers me. And but she's an actress, so whoever can play the role best should get that part, right?
That was the argument for casting on Glee too. Apparently they auditioned actors with and without disabilities, and they picked Kevin McHale because he was the best fit for RE.
Well, he was a good dancer, and they would be able to do a like dream sequence or like before sequence, I think.
Yeah, but there aren't that many of those compared to the scenes where he's in a wheelchair. So.
Right. Also
for his wheelchair dancing scenes, they had to hire someone else to do them because he didn't know how. So they
because he's not a very good wheelchair dancer.
They could have just cast someone else to be in a wheelchair who actually knows how to use one, and hired someone else to do the scenes where he's dancing and not in a wheelchair.
Right.
It's just things like that. But there's always got to be, I don't know, this element of, oh, if only I could be like the rest of them. And that's really bothersome, whether it's a visible or invisible disability.
Yeah. I really wish we'd get like a cool wheelchair narrative where it's like, hey, step off on my wheelchair or like my mobility device because this helps me get around. Like,
right.
This is useful. I'm not up on your your shoes or whatever, so I don't know. Or where it's like not an issue, like I don't know.
I mean,
and where the person doesn't get called like, I don't know, confined,
bound,
wheelchair, bound, yeah.
This is what makes me feel so bad for Bran and Game of Thrones. I mean, nobody messes with Hodor though, but Bran is just another example of, this character who loses use of his legs and then he develops some kind of superpower that is supposed to, I guess, soften the blow.
It was kind of cool that they had him out.
Laurel, you're mute again.
Jesus. Hello? I don't know why my mic is doing that. It was kind of cool that they had him like horseback riding and his brothers were teaching him to shoot even afterwards.
Yeah, and they customized his saddle.
And I guess the super ability runs in the family.
Right.
So he could have theoretically developed it without falling off a roof.
It does kind of play into that trope very heavily, though.
Yeah,
like, suddenly he loses something, but he gains something that's really cool, so you almost forget that he can't use his legs. Isn't that cool? Cool, what up?
Yeah, I guess there's like a really, like when tackling disability narratives, there's like this fine line that I feel like people really struggle with where obviously loss, if it's not a congenital disability, or even if it is, like, but there's this feeling of loss or change that characters have to cope with if that's part of the narrative, And that's real, and that's something I'm interested in exploring, but I don't necessarily want it to be every story.
Right. And that's kind of why I'm just the obverse side of Bran's situation in Game of Thrones, but we were talking before the panel about Jaime Lannister and how he's kind of the opposite, because he was already kind of a Superman figure who was just so amazing at absolutely everything. And then he ends up losing, spoiler, he loses a hand, and suddenly he sees himself as being stripped of all those almost superhuman abilities he had with sword fighting and whatever else he was.
Oh, we got a comment from Sibilant Fick on Twitter, where she says, or Z says, another prob is that when stories do focus on characters with disability, they tend to focus on angst rather than coping, and I think that's true.
Yeah, and I think we've touched on that some too, or
Right.
just
Like I would have
because
loved. Oh, go ahead.
no, sorry, or just like because Sibilant does a lot of Dark Knight Rises stuff, and I'm just like, yes, Bruce Wayne and his man pain of having his back broken and then reset with a rope in a hole in the ground.
Wow, that movie was like problematic.
We
like,
have another panel all about that,
times.
though. We have another panel coming up about that.
But yeah, that just wow.
But there is a lot of focus on just how fraught it is to be a person living like this, instead of just saying, here's a person who has a disability and they're living their life.
Like, it would have been cool to see Archie have an arc, or Artie have an arc
like,
where, like, he learns to be a good wheelchair dancer, you know?
That would have been amazing.
That would have been awesome, and it's like stories, again, that we don't get to see. Because that's the thing, I want both disability stories. I want people that are, like, cool and have moved past their coping and are just, like, living with it. And then I want people who are, like, coping with it and dealing with it. Because there are some dark parts about it.
Right, but that should not be the be-all and end-all, no matter how many people feel that it makes for good TV.
Right, it feels really manufactured a lot of times. Like, I really like Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender, because they definitely didn't... Like, she struggles in a world that is not, like, built for her. So there is definitely, like, that thought of, like, social disability, which I liked. And she is another superpowered disabled person, but like, it just made her better, I guess. Like, it wasn't the source of her earthbending, so I guess there's that. But she was just like, you know, she wasn't afraid to make jokes about it. She's sort of rolling with it. She had other personality and character traits, you know?
Right.
Which is normal, especially when you've reached the post-coping stage, I guess.
Right.
When you're just living with it. I mean, I make jokes too.
Right, me too.
That's another thing, though. It's just because someone who belongs to that group is making jokes does not endorse the fact that people outside of that group are able to do it. You know?
100%.
So it's kind of like a friend saying, oh, my friend doesn't care if I use the N-word, so that means everybody else is totally cool with me doing it.
Right, and I love that, because Toph was always the source of that joke. Like, no one else was making shitty jokes about her being blind.
And I think that's something that gets lost in translation a lot of the time, especially with media consumption and then creation of resultant fan works. Sometimes it'll be embedded in the narrative, something that's derogatory, and that can be tricky to differentiate whether it's the author endorsing it or whether they're acknowledging that from this perspective, this character is sometimes kind of self-mocking or, you know, using sardonic humor. And it's hard to differentiate the perspective from the narrative and what's canonically and what's derogatory.
I also liked it in Avatar because these are, like, all superpowered characters, and it was sort of a way to be like, we're acknowledging that she continues to have this disability even when it's not just like a convenient plot point. If that makes sense, you know? It was like, hey, like, this is this character, and we don't want this to be like an invisible part of her characterization.
I don't know the media, but it sounds favorable.
I really like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think it dealt with it really well. I haven't gotten
far enough to meet this person. I've only seen the first several episodes, but yeah, I know there's what's his name who has one eye. What is his name? The angry guy with fire.
Zuko's fine.
Yes. Does he?
I think he has both eyes.
Does he have? I haven't seen him a lot. I just know Uncle Iroh is the best ever.
Yeah, but I mean, I liked it, and there's actually a character that uses like a modified wheelchair, who's like a background character, but it's sort of just like, I can't walk, so my dad built me this sweet flying wheelchair, and then they kind of move on from there, which is great in like a kid's narrative.
It's better than a flying bison.
And like nobody is a dick about it, and everyone can like handle it without being like weird and staring at him, you know?
Right.
But in relation to earlier, I think a problem is, the first part isn't a problem, but in fandom we examine things usually pretty closely, and there is a certain amount of criticism, certainly more than in the general audience, I dare say,
Mhm.
if there's a dodgy disability storyline or whatever, but a lot of stereotypes from the media also get perpetuated in fandom and
Oh
in fic.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was actually where I wanted to go for our next topic, so this is perfect. Like
Ooh.
actual portrayal of disability in fandom versus the canon media sources we're working from. And
Oh, yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, I've definitely seen fics where a character is disabled for like plot reasons.
Mm.
And then they're cured by their true
Wump.
love or
Wump, yeah.
getting looked after. And I get that everybody has tropes that they enjoy, guiltily or not, but after a certain, to a certain extent, it does get a little bit. You have to turn it on its side and wonder, okay, is this actually
I'm gonna go
just
ahead
a
and call
trope,
out
or
X-Men First Class. Had a lot of stuff that made me really uncomfortable.
oh, that movie was just uncomfortable in general? But I agree.
But the
I agree.
fandom got
Yeah, the
like,
fandom.
yeah, there's just like, I mean,
There was a lot of
poor
healing
suffering
dick
Charles and oral stuff.
sorry, Zan, what?
healing dick
Yeah,
fics,
Yes.
a lot of that.
where Charles and Eric get together and somehow his paraplegic, his spine gets cured or whatever. I'm
And
like,
he's magically non-wheelchair using anymore, and they live happily ever after.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's just there's a lot of like, or like, I've seen this a few times where one of the characters in a main pairing is blind or deaf. So, but it just, and normally they're not written like grotesquely offensively, you know. It's like they bothered to at least like read a Wikipedia article or two, you know, whatever. But it's basically like it's only put there so the other character has to work harder and is like therefore more special for the romance. Like the romance is more special because this dude bothered to learn like a couple ASL signs, or
Right.
you know, didn't treat this guy differently like all the other men that he's tried to date.
And I think that's really issue-y as well, because it just implies that, if this person happens to be deaf, then of course they're going to, jump all over the place because their love interest happened to learn just a little bit and give them the time of day. Like, really, that's all they need to give. And
Right.
This just reminds me of
hunky-dory. How,
And there's always
how trivializing is that?
There's a few I've read with like the able-bodied best friend, and what I do notice like a total lack of is like, especially with death fics, like there's not the disabled character does not have like a community of other disabled friends.
Yeah, because I think a lot of authors or creators are not sure how to approach that if it's not something they have direct experience with.
Or they wouldn't think about it, you know,
No, it's easier to focus on this person and how to use a disability as a plot device to getting them together.
Which I think is interesting because there are a lot of like fan that have disabilities.
Right.
So I think there's like a lot of working through your own issues, but this sort of like also using other disabilities as a way. I don't know how to express what I'm trying to say there.
No, there's a lot of it with like characters who are depressed or things like that, and how so and so shows them how to go out and
we haven't talked about
enjoy. They magically overcome their clinical depression and for the sake of talk.
Oh yeah. Oh, and there's like the whole genre of like committing suicide but being fixed by love.
Yeah, let's open this can of worms.
Yeah. So like we haven't talked a lot about mental disabilities.
We have 15 minutes. We can make it happen.
Yeah.
Oh, by the side note, if anyone has seen Almost Human, please tell me how it is, because it sounds very interesting.
I'm gonna watch it for Michael Ealy. I'm gonna.
Yeah, apparently no. He plays an android who is too emotional, so he was like retired. But then he gets paired up with this cop who has PTSD and is missing a leg, and his body is rejecting his prosthetic leg, or maybe he's
I feel like there's
rejecting his prosthetic leg.
Yeah,
there's so many things in that it could be a giant metaphor that maybe everything will get played straight and it'll be awesome.
I hope it's awesome. I would like it to be awesome, because it could be like, an interracial cyborg I don't know what he. Well, it's not
Yeah.
interracial.
In the trailer, it says that he's psychologically rejecting it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was
Pathetic.
psychologically or physically, but
Oh, did we? Oh, I guess we haven't talked about
But
Sherlock either, because that kind of bothered me.
what
Actually, a lot.
wait, what has Sherlock done?
Just the like John is only psychosomatically
Oh,
injured
okay,
from the war.
yes, right, because they have him running.
Because at first
and
I
then
was
Sherlock,
like, oh, this would be kind of a cool storyline because like the number of disabled veterans from like our current Middle Eastern conflicts is huge in the U.S.
Right.
and the U.K. and
Yeah.
I love
like-
that. I love that his. Sorry, but I just want to
go
get this
ahead.
out before I forget it. But I love that his whole chronicling of Sherlock's adventures stemmed from his psychologist telling him to start a blog and write down what happens in his life. I was like, that's a great way to dovetail this with something relevant to the present day.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of, yeah, like there are a lot of issues that could have been dealt with in Sherlock that were just sort of like not. Sherlock fixes a lot of the stuff. Look, John has a meaning in life, so he's not sad anymore.
Right. And then there's a lot of there's been a lot of meta about the treatment of autism or sociopathy
Yeah.
behavior on the show, and whether or not Sherlock is self-diagnosing, and or whether he's meant to be representative of individuals with Asperger's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Fandom definitely like has done a lot of great things with that and done a lot of horrible things.
It's a very polarizing topic, so I get that though. And it's not canonical either way. I mean, he says at one point that he is a high-functioning sociopath, but we don't know if he has a diagnosis. We don't know if it's a
or
self-diagnosis.
even if that's like a thing that you can.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even deal with like a diagnosis like that?
I mean,
It's,
Sherlock says a lot of things.
It's antisocial personality disorder, actually.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, it's on a spectrum, so you can't really. Every one of us is a little bit antisocial, I do believe.
Personality disorders are so fraught.
It's a very nebulous thing on a lot of scales, you know. I mean,
Yeah, and
I'm
I feel.
actually-
Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, I'm just reading a book about it. Bad Boys, Bad Men, I think,
Oh, okay.
about antisocial personality disorder, and it's very many obvious daily things where you're just being a dick to be a dick, and it's like a disorder, and I'm all.
Yeah, there's
interesting.
the New York Times ran a couple articles like, can you diagnose an 8-year-old as a sociopath? You know, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
About personality disorder diagnoses and treatment, which is interesting in that sort of car crash way that they meant it to be.
Oh, did they really mean it to be that way?
Well, I don't know if can an 8-year-old be a sociopath? Headline, really, you know. But there were some really good blog posts that came out of like the disability blogosphere, or part of the disability blogosphere, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so. There's like Fandom is a great place, I think, for authors with disabilities to explore a lot of that stuff, either metaphorically or just straight up disabling the text. You know,
Yeah, it's a great venue for dialogue in whatever form.
I mean, I'll be real, a lot of my Inception fics are based in a lot of issues that I was having coming to grips with chronic pain disorder. And I got into Fandom because I was having a lot of mental issues, and it was like, this seems like a good way to start being social again without like a huge commitment. How wrong I was about the commitment. But
Right.
but like Fandom, I think, is also a good space where you can carve out niches that are like, you know, safe, or like that stuff can be discussed with other people.
You can find
a
people.
community.
And
Yeah.
it's good for people with like more severe disabilities, like you know, or you spend a lot of time at home on the computer because you're not super mobile or whatever. This was good for me when I was not super mobile, and it was like, okay, but I haven't become a recluse who doesn't see anyone, because I'm still talking to people and like doing things and creating stuff and being part of a community, which is, I wanted to make sure I got this point out there on this podcast, because like I think that's really important. And
Well, there are a lot of misconceptions about, you know, the person who stays at home all day and just logs
Yeah.
on the computer. It's not necessarily because
yeah,
they're lazy and don't have anything better to do. Sometimes
or yeah,
there's a deeper issue. and it's actually none of your fucking business.
That's true. But I found fandom really, really useful for that, and because there's some like just a lot of, for me at least, a lot of disability only spaces online are catering to an audience that is not me.
Yeah.
Like a lot of chronic pain forums have like a predominantly like middle class, white, like married woman kind of audience, which is great, and it's like great for them, but that's not helpful to my life.
Yeah, I remember you were looking for blogs that were more like your demographic.
Yeah, so I'm always really curious about like portrayal of disability in fandom and how we use that, especially like a lot of mental disorders. There's like the coping mechanism, but also how that really informs your writing, even if you're not directly writing about disability.
Yeah. Fandom is always well, not always, but usually portrayed as so homogeneous, but it's really not, which is the great thing about it, because you can find all the intersectionalities. Like, for example, I think we had a link to Forward, feminists with disabilities, which theoretically I like, and I like their articles about the language, but I never go there because they're really transphobic.
Yeah, they have some issues with that, and there are, that's also true about fandom and pretty much any space. It's like, I really wish we could get a little more intersectional up in here.
Yeah,
but you can find people who understand and like all the different things. Yeah. It's not easy, but it's possible.
Right. And fandom is like a good space when people are up to it to kind of learn about stuff, even if it's just shutting up and listening to people talk, I think.
Right.
Definitely.
But so I don't know, fandom, disability. What other points do we want to cover?
We didn't talk about Animorphs.
Oh, Animorphs. Animorphs.
Let's talk about Animorphs.
No, wait! Before you guys descend into Animorph fandom.
Okay. No.
Go ahead.
No, we wanted to talk about the invisible disabilities.
Yes, let's do that and then Animorphs. Sorry, I get so excited about Andalite hegemony. Okay.
So kick it off, man.
Oh man, why me?
We were talking about Sherlock earlier, and then we derailed ourselves.
Okay.
So
Sherlock, or I mean, even earlier, I was thinking about because I've been reading a lot of Teen Wolf, obviously, recently, and for example, Styles and his ADHD.
I'm really glad that they made that canon though, because I feel like especially with stuff like Sherlock, there's a really problematic aspect to diagnosis based on behaviors.
Oh Jesus! Yes.
Yeah.
You know, from people who are obviously not professionals, like
okay, he's looking that person in the eye, so he can't have Asperger's.
Right, and I think that's totally different from people on the autism spectrum who are like, I relate to this character because he does stuff like I do. I want to explore this character, this way, versus like, I read some stuff about it, and I think this is like this will add something to my writing.
The armchair approach. But one thing I think is interesting about Styles, though, I'm glad you brought him up because I forgot, and I love talking about Styles. But one thing I think is interesting is that nobody gives him any grief for having ADHD. It's never a thing that comes up. The closest they come is one point where Scott kind of jokingly goes, "How much Adderall have you had?" And his response is, "A lot." And there's been a lot of meta about, taking a lot of Adderall is not actually how you regulate it. But honestly, they're best friends. They've been best friends for a while. I just read that as kind of banter and not something to be honest,
I never looked
I never took it
closely into that line, because that's a conversation that I've seen played out and I've had, with people that so I like Scott is in that safe space with Styles,
Exactly, and it's kind of a running joke because it comes up again where Styles bursts in and he's talking about something or other, and then he tops it all off with, "And yes, I've had a lot of Adderall."
Right.
Which again is not how medication.
But I feel works, that because that's a lot of that's a coping mechanism.
No, and I'm the same exact way. I mean,
how many jokes have I made like that about my disability before anyone else can
Yeah,
make that.
before someone can point it out. I mean,
Right.
I'll be the first one to say, okay, look, I am being OCD about this because I'm actually diagnosed with this, so that's why I'm gonna have to take some time and do what I need to do, etc. I'm not really comfortable talking about like my medical pedigree, but sometimes it's easier to just get it out of the way.
Right. And like making a joke about it is definitely like, man, I learned that in high school before I ever had like any disability like theory language to talk about anything, you know?
Yeah, sometimes you just use the only,
Right.
resources you have, and if that means making a joke at your own expense because someone else can, then so
Yeah.
be it. Which I do not think is what Styles is doing. I think he's in his comfort zone with Scott, and I don't
With
think
Scott, yeah.
I don't think Scott is like trivializing his disability.
No, but I could definitely see him doing that in other
spheres.
Like I think that makes more sense than like Styles having an Adderall addiction problem, which is an interesting angle to explore, but not a thing that I'm going to take as like extrapolated from canon. I think that's the problem when people are like when an essay about Sherlock's autism becomes like this is why he's autistic versus like this is a read on the character as an autistic person, a person with autism.
It's tricky to paint things as being the gospel truth when there's so many different perspectives to analyze them from. And just people saying this, you are interpreting this wrong if you don't say X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of room for nuance when you don't have Word of God. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Zan, I totally hijacked because Styles. I'm sorry.
No. Natsuno also just linked us a couple metas about Styles' possible condition in that line.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that.
Is it I thought it was a canonical condition.
What, ADHD?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It is though, right?
Yeah. So.
And I was actually.
I read this the other day. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Zan.
Okay. While you were talking, I was actually thinking about how so many invisible conditions are made out to be just in your head, in, like,
right.
Yeah.
Gaslighting.
Oh, gaslighting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like you can get over this through the power of love /
or friendship, or you just need to get up and do something, or
like stimulate your prostate.
You're just lazy, or you're just there are so many things I've heard.
Why don't you exercise more? Have you tried yoga?
Because it hurts.
I think yoga would be really helpful. Oh, I don't really think that's great because my joints are literally inflamed every day.
Yeah. Excellent idea.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to
You should just go off your medication and take in some sun.
Oh.
And then if you say no, it's not going to work, then it's like a personal slight against the person giving the advice. Which
that's for sure. Yeah. Even though it's advice you've heard like a billion times before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I definitely baited a fic for someone like a million years ago where they were talking about like psychiatric drugs, and I could tell like this is not in a fandom that I'm normally in, but it felt like very much like kind of like a fandom like loop about psychiatric drugs for a character versus like are they more creative, that idea that like your creativity is getting stifled by your depression meds. And it was actually really great because she was really open to it when I was like, yo, this is problematic for these reasons. Mm-hmm. But I was a little uncomfortable bringing that up, but at the same time it's like, well, I gotta talk about that. But yeah, sometimes I feel like I read fic and it's like I want to bring that up, but I don't know like where the perspective of the author or like fan work is coming from.
If they have experiences with it, or
right? Like maybe you're writing about how shitty antidepressants were for you,
mm-hmm.
and I don't want to step all over that.
Yeah, and I've seen some fan works where the author has a little caveat about where they're coming from and what their perspective is, which can be helpful, but I also understand, if you're a creator and you don't want to have to explain anything that personal either, but sometimes you feel obligated to in order to define your point a little bit more.
Yeah. And I've definitely written fan works that don't directly deal with disability that I felt like almost embarrassed or like really personal about posting just because like
so much of your life is informed by your life.
Exactly. No,
Basically.
that's the perfect way to state it. Yeah. Like, how many stories can I write that are not going to be about this, even in some small way? It's really hard for me to break out of that because, this is my life. I'm
Mm.
living this.
And
So these
sometimes it
are,
manifests in very unconscious ways too. I mean,
Oh
right.
yeah.
it's not always something you realize is happening, getting worked into your narrative or your art or whatever it is you do. Which is why meta is so great, because you can take what you know and view your canon through that lens and analyze it from that perspective. And there is some amazing meta floating around out there about disability in fandom, which we will link to in our roundup post.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely, I feel like fandom has contributed a ton of really interesting thought. So for every like super problematic fic, there's also some essays you can find that are really going to speak to you.
Yeah, and one of them is about animorphs. Speaking of
Oh, right.
portrayals of individuals with disabilities. So, in this seminal young adult series about brain stealing slugs and teenagers who can turn into animals, at one point, our intrepid heroes decide to recruit from a school for children with disabilities
Can we? Yeah.
because
Okay.
the Yerks would never possibly want them as hosts, so they know that they are not victims of the Yerk invasion.
Right. So these aliens need like the most perfect host bodies. So this was amazing to me. I was rereading Animorphs just like Eva was this past
Shut
year
up.
ish. No, I was too. I'm
That's
not
true.
hating.
Yes, I know. Not hating, just stating.
Yeah. So and there's like a lot that I remembered and a lot that I didn't remember, and I had not remembered that plot line at all, but I was like totally floored because it really examined a lot of issues that like that I didn't have language for at the time, that I wouldn't have thought about at the time, and
Yeah.
it was great.
Like
Yeah.
the bad guys are leaving these host bodies alone because they're imperfect. And our heroes are recruiting them because they know that they're not on the bad guy side, because they're seen as, air quotes, imperfect.
Right,
So
because
are they
you
really
can't tell a host body from a non-host
exactly?
body.
Yeah, and then there's like some of the parents find out and they're asking, is what you're doing to these children moral and humane? Is
Like,
that
is this an
really?
ethical decision? And are
This is a very heavy series.
right, and like if you were offered a cure, would you take it? Which they don't explore, but like that idea is brought up when they give the children that are like living on this hospital ward or whatever, like the decision to take it to become an animorph basically is what they were offering. So they would be able to transform into animals that would not have aspects of their disability.
Right, and since it's the power to morph is DNA based, some of the students are cured of their disabilities when they morph back to human form.
And some aren't because it's a
Because it's,
congenital
yeah,
disease.
which is
Yeah,
actually
so
really interesting, but really uncomfortable to read about, especially when spoiler for a series from like the 90s. I believe they all die on a suicide mission, and we get like a paragraph while our heroes are watching
well, I
their
think
recruits all getting massacred, along with a
that
bunch
is
of
one of
other
the things
people.
that really fucks Jake up
Yeah,
forever. And the series also definitely deals with the mental tolls of combat and stuff in a way that really isn't brought up in a lot of like super powered young adult series.
right. They all have terrible PTSD, and they grapple with these incredibly
But yeah, the
heavy
whole
issues about what's moral and what's an animal and
so
what's a human.
there's definitely this argument between the main Animorph's parents who are presenting like this is a really unethical decision for you to make for these students versus like is it unethical if you're giving these students the agency to pick this life even with the knowledge that it may not cure them. And there's one character who I think basically has locked-in syndrome. They don't talk.
Yes, yes.
And there's like a promise at the end from one of the students who's his roommate that's like, yo, even if this shit gets really fucked up, I need you to come back and give him the power to morph so he can make a decision on his own, because there's another character which I think is presented in a really disabling narrative type, Tobias, who's trapped in the form of a hawk. So there's this idea that like maybe this kid would want the choice to do that, or at least the choice to be an animal for like 2 hours and not be.
Well, and when you're in morph,
I mean, I'm gonna use the term like confined to his body because that's like a way that I've thought about it. So I'm gonna quantify that, but you know, like being limited by his physical aspects.
Well, and also he wanted him to acquire at least one morph, and I think part of that was because when you morph, you can communicate telepathically, which is not something he can do with locked-in syndrome.
Right. One of the kids has like a really bad stutter, but is very so it's very excited to speak telepathically because it removes that communications barrier, which is great. Like the idea that the communications barrier between being disabled and trying to express things to people who are not in that headspace, you know, was great. So basically she dealt, like, Kay Applegate / ghostwriter, no, she wrote these, I think, herself, but, like, managed to do a pretty, like, interesting, in-depth, like, view of disability and the superheroic disabled person, like, cures, the ethics of potentially life-threatening treatments in a way that, like, is acceptable for kids, and I'm sure there's problematic aspects, but...
Yeah, it's certainly not perfect. Basically, the resolution is incredibly off-putting, but just the fact that she went there and she covered a lot of ground that is not normally
But, like, that shows me there's a, like, we're not trying hard enough in media, especially media for kids, to really cover these issues.
Right.
Or they're, like, genre'd away.
Yeah.
All right.
Especially in genre fiction as a whole, anyway.
Yeah,
for example, that is a thing I liked a lot in the, well, to kind of pull back just a bit, in the A Song of Ice and Fire books, that Tyrion is a person with actual dwarfism and not a fantasy dwarf.
Right.
You know?
Right. He's completely...
Not like a mythical race, people are shorter, but instead he has actual dwarfism because
he's not from a race of dwarves. Like...
Oh man, I was reading this article about this, and people were complaining about, like, whatever, tokenism casting or something, and somebody was like, well, what? Like, is it okay that if Tyrion is a really popular character, that other shows then see that it's popular and put other actors with dwarfism in their shows? And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I would love for that to happen.
Yeah.
Like, when does it stop being tokenism and start being something that opens new doors for other actors?
And also, I don't think it's a thing that's going to happen. Like, I guess I'm really uncomfortable with, like, I love Lord of the Rings, but I'm really uncomfortable with their casting decisions, I guess.
Because there are no real dwarves?
Yeah.
Right.
Except for the body doubles?
Right. All the body doubles are dwarves, or little people, and the same with Snow White and the Huntress versus, what was the one that Tarkin did? The other one?
Tarsem?
Shit.
No, I know the one you mean with
Julia Roberts
and
they actually cast all the dwarves were actual people with dwarfism or little people.
Oh, I cannot remember that. Magic Mirror.
Mirror.
They were actual dwarves.
So I thought that was really cool because, again, like we were saying, there's not a lot of roles. Like, it's so much harder to be like a little person or a person in a wheelchair or a person with a visible deformity. To get a role that is not written specifically for someone with your disability, versus we can cast an entire fucking movie about dwarves and not have, like, a single
person with actual dwarfism.
Right.
Yeah.
As an actor. So.
Yeah, only as the body doubles.
Which, I mean, cool. That's probably.
It's still work. You could argue that we're still giving them work. We're just giving the face time to recognize leaders in the industry, which again is because there aren't openings for people who don't fit that mold. So it goes back to that catch-22. Oh, what?
Zan?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little like the people in the background are people of color.
Right, yeah.
And we're still giving them work, and it's an ethnically diverse cast. Yeah, fuck off.
Oh, Zen, you're like skipping.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I think I got the gist.
Yeah,
Unless
me
you, yeah, if
too.
you
But
wanna, yeah, it's like I'm sure some of the extras and stuff. But there is, yeah, that's just like, yeah, because they did do a call for people under a certain height to be background extras because a Maori woman sued when she was told she couldn't be a hobbit or a dwarf. And she was like, this is some racial discrimination bullshit. So there's a lot of problematic things happening in that casting, but yeah, it's just there's so I watch a lot of NCIS, which is this
Hmm.
is totally related, but um, they do a lot of one-offs, and I think it's really interesting because the character Abby Shuto is always shown as having like she's had several friends who are little people, and like disabled friends and that kind of stuff. So they like it's interesting because the show's been running for so long that it's like becomes statistically improbable that we wouldn't see anyone with these issues. So I kind of like that that's showing up on like a mainstream show, and it's never really like those characters come in to help with science, not to talk about their dwarfism.
mhm.
So I think that's kind of cool, and I'd like to see like if people are gonna be like relegated to marginal side roles, like at least give them some cool shit to do,
Right.
to sort of push
Yeah.
on that. I guess that makes sense.
There's a show on Dirty, very popular outside of Germany too. Tatort.
What was that?
It's kind of a
You might want to adjust
I'm
your
not,
mic or something.
Yeah,
You're
you're getting twangy.
sorry. Is this better?
Oh,
slightly.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Perfect.
Oh, now?
yes.
Good. There's a show on still?
Yeah, it's
No,
back.
Oh no.
I'm not doing anything.
No,
I
you're.
don't
Yes, this is
understand.
good. This is good. Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, I'm not going to move even a little bit. Anyway, there's a show on German TV. It's a crime show. It's very popular outside of Germany as well.
Okay.
It's happening again, but I get what you're saying. It's just kind of tricky to understand.
So there's a crime show in Germany that's popular outside of Germany as well.
Yeah, and they change the cast completely periodically, like every 10 or so episodes.
Okay.
And the episodes are always a huge thing. And the last run
Hmm.
was we had Christine Urspruch. She's an actress in Germany with dwarfism, and she was a pathologist on the show.
Oh,
And she had a really actually. She was in every episode, and uh,
so it wasn't
they
all about.
handled it really well.
So it wasn't all about. Oh, here's a character with dwarfism, and
No,
It
that's
was
not.
like,
She actually
here's our
had.
new pathologist.
She had depth, and it wasn't all about just the fact that she had dwarfism. That's cool.
it was.
That's
I don't think they even mentioned it, like not overtly, except that sometimes she would be like, "Okay, hand me that share or whatever." She has this to the table, but that's all.
What's the show, if I can
But I'm going to type it
ask? Okay.
because if I just say it in German.
I'm curious now. That's cool. Well,
Actually,
Yeah.
and her
So
name.
Tator.
Tatort.
Okay.
Tatort. The location of the act. Tat is the act, Ort is the location. Or it's Tatort if in this it's always scene of the crime, you could say in English.
Okay.
oh, okay.
So we're at an hour and 15. So unless are there
And now you're muting.
any more points that we want to bring up, or should we wrap up?
I think we hit most. I'm scanning through our document right now. Okay.
I think we.
Oh, we didn't bring up Carnival.
Oh, I talked a little bit about Carnival and just like Lodes, the character who's like the stereotypical blind mystic.
But they did cast
just,
actors with disabilities.
No, they did use some. They did for some of them, but some of them were not. And it's just kind of another one of those gray areas, like the movie from I think what is it, like the 1930s, 40s called Freaks, which was all about actual. It's got cult status because it actually hired so-called carnival freaks of the time, and it was all about
like a whole
story set
show.
there. Yeah. And so just where is the line between, yay, awesome, we're giving people like this work and allowing such diverse casting to happen? Is that great, or is that fetishizing and tokenism and exploitation? And if you look up the film Freaks, it's seen as like body horror or exploitation film or what have you. So
right.
Where do you categorize that?
Yeah, the historical aspect of that makes it really tricky. Like the Carnival, I think would be like, I don't know. I mean, it did have that sideshow aspect, right?
Yeah, it's about a traveling carnival right. During the Dust Bowl and the end of the world. But some of the actors were actual individuals with disabilities. Some were not. Right. But could have been.
So, I don't know. I mean, at this point, like, I'm glad we're getting more shows that are casting people with disabilities. That I'm really hoping that soon this conversation will be like louder. There'll be more volume, and people will stop making the same arguments for literally every problematic casting choice ever made, which is, well, it's acting.
Right. Well, I just want the argument to be louder so that the issue becomes obsolete, is what I meant. But,
right. And I mean, we're not there with pretty much anything, but this was a really great talk, you guys. So.
Yeah, we went. There was a lot of material to work with. Thank you for sending in inquiries and information, those of you who did, and thank you for listening. We'll have our post up with links and
we're gonna try
the actual
to do
video. We are going to try and transcribe this. Yeah. We'll try and transcribe. It might take a little while. This is new to us, but it's something we'd like to try and incorporate.
And at least for this, because otherwise we'd feel like hypocrites. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for listening. Do we have any favorite stuff in fandom that we want to do?
Oh, favorites in fandom. Derek Hale's face.
Yeah, Teen Wolf canon is probably still my favorite thing in fandom right now. I'm terrible.
It's not terrible. We just happen to be invested in a show about, that happens to use lycanthropy as a metaphor for
puberty,
being a panacea. Yeah, not puberty.
I guess it's not quite Buffy.
I never watched Buffy. But whatever. No, I never watched Buffy.
Out of the fandom. We're just casting you out.
Listen, okay, this is like, don't be classist because my family didn't have those resources. Ugh. Let's throw it down.
Let's
not. Alright, anyway, favorite things in fandom that are not Derek Hale's face. Also Tom Hardy's face. That's out there. Yeah. Tom Hardy guest starring on Teen Wolf would, make my life.
That would be bizarre.
That would be great.
Yeah, I guess I'll shout out My Gimpy Life again. I think it's a really good web series that shows, being a disabled actor in Hollywood. I can shout out Push Girls, was a Sundance reality show about some really sweet wheelchair-using ladies, including Audie Angel, who's a hip-hop artist and dancer. So if you're interested in seeing folks with wheelchairs do their thing, check those out.
Very cool. How about you, Zan?
Meh. I'm just going to shout out Switched at Birth again, I think, because it's a good show and people should watch it. It gets a little soapy at times, but it's a lot of fun, and the hearing disabilities are handled very sensitively, which is a rare thing. So.
All right. Great.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.